Joining me is Steve Conroy, former trade union official, former Labor senator, former cabinet minister, and Michael Kroger, former Victorian Liberal president and former solicitor, whose career took off when he teamed up with Peter Costello to attack union bullying of business back when deregulating workplaces was the go, not re-regulating them. Talking about that, Michael Kroger, is business falling into a trap of more union power, or is this summit really the golden chance, as the government puts it, to cooperate and get the economy moving?
That's a nice photo, by the way, Andrew, from a few years ago.
I thought so.
No, they're falling into a trap. Let me tell you, if you're backing the ACTU or COSBOA, I'd be backing the ACTU. Patent bargaining was abolished years ago for all the reasons we don't need to go into. It doesn't work. It doesn't take into account individual workplace issues, and that's why it fails as any kind of productivity benefit for small business. So I don't know what COSBOA think they're doing. I think they're out of their depth, quite frankly, in relation to this. And you only need to look at Tony Burke, by the way. Tony Burke today, who's saying, well, he was a bit hardline about the better off over the boot test, the better off overall test. They may need to think about that. Well, let me give you a secret, let you into a secret, Andrew. Despite what Tony Burke says, there is zero chance of Tony Burke or the Labor government agreeing to abolish the boot test, because it was only last year Tony Burke was in a lather about opposing the Omnibus Industrial Relations Bill, which the Morrison government were trying to bring into the Parliament. And bigger still, which everyone will remember, the whole 2007 election was fought on work choices, which was basically an argument about the Howard government wanting to abolish the no disadvantage test, which is the precursor to the boot test. And Labor essentially won that election on this whole nasty Howard government proposal to sort of threaten, terms and conditions of workers. I mean, that's what work choice was all about, even though the Howard government restored that test. It didn't help. Yeah, well, of course they're not going to go back. So if Tony Burke's saying this, it's absolute nonsense, Andrew.
Steve, there was actually something else that Tony Burke said today that really alarmed me, and that was he only started thinking about this when the ACTU raised it last week, this patent bargaining thing. Seriously? Something that only was raised last week, and now is suddenly think, well, yeah, let's go backwards. What do you make of this all?
Well, the two people sounding like they're throwbacks to the last century, frankly, is Michael, Dollar Sweets, from the 80s, and Andrew, I think you're slipping into that cap yourself. I mean, let's be clear, the enterprise bargaining system is broken. People in Treasury and the Reserve Bank should be sacked for their modelling because no one's getting any productivity. And if you don't get productivity, you don't get a pay rise. So the enterprise bargaining system is broken. The employers say it's broken. The unions say it's broken. And the workers say it's broken because they can't get a pay rise. And people at the Reserve Bank who do the modelling on this, saying there's this wage breakout coming, and Treasury officials say this is wage breakout coming, they should be sacked because they're not their productivity is zero. Because they have been wrong for 10 years on their claims of false wage breakouts. 10 years they've been wrong.
Steve,
every single
budget. People aren't
getting
the wage rises. People aren't getting the wage rises. I've said that for years, right? But you tell me how you get the increased productivity that you're talking about to pay for them by slapping on a business a wage demand that's more appropriate to one down the road, but they just happen to be in the same industry, so we'll hit them with it too.
The enterprise bargaining system is broken. The boot test was working okay.
How's this an improvement?
Except the Fair Work Commission. No, let's be clear. The Fair Work Commission put a radical interpretation to it that hadn't ever been in place in the last couple of years, and it utterly destroyed the concept of what the boot test was actually put in place for. So movement from all three sides, from government, from the unions and the employers, saying, for God's sake, can we fix the boot test, is a great outcome for this summit. You might not want to accept that.
Two different things.
The enterprise bargaining model
is one thing. The better off overall thing.
The enterprise bargaining system is not working.
Bargaining. Michael Kroger, a top employment lawyer from Herbert Smith Freehills, he says, well, if Labor does go ahead and it does hit bosses with sector-wide demands, this pattern bargaining, because you're in this industry, you're going to get the same set of demands, there will be more strikes. Is he right?
Well, of course he's right. They're one of the top employer law firms in the country and have been for 40 years, Freehills. Of course he's right. At the minute it's prohibited to have strikes across industries, but once you introduce pattern bargaining, you can find that 8, 10, 12 businesses that all are under the same agreement, therefore will become lawful there to be strikes across that whole group of businesses. So of course he's absolutely right. And that's what we don't want. We worked out, by the way, 30 years ago that pattern bargaining didn't work. Industry-wide bargaining and strikes didn't work. That's what the whole industrial relations club that Gerard Henderson uncovered in the mid-1980s was basically all about. And I think, Stephen, if you read a bit of history, you might start to learn.
I was there.
You might learn something when you're in.
I was a union official with the Transport Workers Union.
Okay, great.
And I absolutely support this.
The TWU. So the other thing you've got to remember, Stephen, is that real wages haven't been increasing in recent years.
No, they've been falling.
It's a worldwide phenomenon.
Falling.
It's not because the Australian product enterprise
not
bargaining
falling,
system has
keeping
broken
even.
down.
But
this is
Steve,
a world,
I just need quickly,
this is
Steve,
a worldwide
falling
phenomenon. It's everywhere.
Steve, more strikes?
Well, we've got, despite this 1970s rhetoric, there is almost no strikes in the system right now. If workers need to actually take action to get a wage rise, then that, given the alternative of falling real wages, I don't actually have a problem with that. There are falling real wages today. It's a fault of the system.
Everywhere in the world.
It's a fault of the system because the employer side of this has got too much power. And if we have to swing back to the unions having a bit more power, that's a good thing.
Real wages are falling everywhere in the world, Stephen.
I've got to go, but I've just heard...
It causes inflation.
I've just heard, Steve, you say that there probably will be more strikes, but that's a good thing. Well, OK. Well, we shall see. And if wages rise, people think, so what? They might agree with you. Steve Conroy, Michael Kroger, thank you both so much for your time.